Welcome to the 7th episode of Cooking with Beth. Oh my God, we've done 7 of these. Well, we're about to do 7 of these. I can't even believe it. I swear when we started that we were only going to do like 1 or 2 and then no one would watch and this would die out and there wouldn't be any interest. But, you know, truthfully, it's given me something to do during quarantine, and I think it's given you guys something to do during quarantine, and it's a way for us to connect together. So we're going to keep doing them, and our setup gets maybe not more professional every week, but we're trying. We're making a real effort. I'm also trying to figure out more recipes. I have a couple of weeks planned out already, so I'm really excited for this week's episode, which is my famous, and I say this because I've had like 10 people ask me for the recipe. I think that counts as famous. Potato leek soup, which is a very easy and delicious dinner, even in the summer. Yes, Corey, you can eat soup in the summer. It's totally fine. If you want to eat this cold, you could do that too. But he just made this. Anyway, welcome to my kitchen. We are going to be cooking the soup today, and it is kind of raining outside, but if you go outside, it's like a big wall of heat, humidity, so it's not really like soup weather, but that's okay, because this is great anytime. So, one of the things about potato leek soup that's tricky that people don't like is the leeks. So that's the first thing we're going to tackle is what even is a leek? Some advice. Don't hit yourself in the face with the leek because you're so enthusiastic.
Is there a leak in your face now?
There's a leak in my face. This is a leek. This little piece just really wants to attack me. So this is what it looks like. Sometimes they come in like packs of 3 at the grocery store. Sometimes they have this thing called baby leeks. That works too. It's exactly the same thing. It's just smaller. They try to make baby everything because they think it looks cute. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you really how you use and prep a leek, because it's kind of tricky. So the first thing you're going to do is this part here. I don't know if it's probably edible, but it's very tough, as you can see, and it also, because it almost stabbed me in the eye, it's very tough. So we're just going to cut that off. So this stuff we're not using. This is the part, this is the part you're going to use. So you're going to cut the other end off. And here's the thing about leeks, is that they grow in sandy soil. So that means that as it's growing with all these many layers, as you can see in here, there could be sand and grit between the layers of the leek, which you don't want in your soup because that would be disgusting. So the first thing we're going to do after we cut off the parts we're not going to use is we're going to cut this in half. And then you could really see that there's like all these parts in here, right? This is a pretty clean looking one, but it's always good to do this with leeks because you never know when you're going to have some unexpected dirt. I think dirt's always unexpected, but it's kind of expected in a leek situation. Now I'm using 4 leeks because I really like leeks. If you have one that has like kind of it's not as nice on the outside, just go ahead and take that off. You're gonna have plenty of leek. So any parts that don't look good or smell good, just get rid of them.
So treat it like an onion?
Sure, we could say that. Okay. So I'm halfway there. I have my leek parts halved. Now the thing we're going to do next, just a second, sorry this got kind of messed up here. Make sure you cut it in half so you can actually get through to all the layers. Pro tip is we're going to go over to the sink and we're going to rinse these out. Now there was a point when like chefs were like, you must get a huge bowl of water and fill it up and then put the leeks in there after you've cut them and like wash them completely and then drain the water and then dry the leeks. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so much work. Who wants to do that just to make soup? Not me. So this is way easier. So we're going to turn the water on, just like a very fine, and we're just going to fan out our layers here. And we're just gonna make sure that there's no grit and no dirt. And that's it. Easy peasy. It takes like half the time that it took to do that whole water drying thing, which was unnecessary. See, there was a little piece of grit right there. Sometimes you get really clean leeks. I wonder if they've been like hydroponically grown. I don't know. But I've also gotten really dirty ones too, so it never hurts to be vigilant. It's one of my big words. It's a writing word. I can't say things like sifter, but I can say the word like vigilant. I'm a conundrum. I can say word like conundrum too. Okay. I did put them on a paper towel because you don't really want a lot of water in your soup because we're going to saute these, and water is not conducive to caramelization of vegetables. Yes, Corey. Did you have a question? Did someone else have a question? No? Okay. So I'm just making sure they're nice and dry, not completely dry, but make a small effort to make them mostly dry. And then I'm just going to chop them up, and it's really easy. We already have it cut in half like this. We're just going to cut them into half moons. Actually, I'm going to turn the stove on. So we're going to start on about medium heat. We're going to put a little bit of olive oil in, and we're going to get back to this after we're done cutting our leeks. Now, it doesn't really matter how you cut your leeks because I'm going to actually use an immersion blender and blend the soup so it's pretty smooth. So it's just about getting these into like easy to cook pieces. So the other ingredient in our soup is potatoes. It's brilliant, potato leek soup. I'm going to recommend that you use a Yukon Gold potato, which if you've never seen it before, is kind of a smaller potato. It has a gold skin and kind of a golden flesh, and you should peel it, especially for the soup, but if you're making like roasted potatoes or something, the skin is thinner and it's very tasty if it's cleaned properly. I would recommend these. You can use other potatoes, but I think these are the best. It gives a really unique kind of soft potato flavor to your soup. People are going to ask you, oh, what did you put in that that's so different? And like, if you've seen the recipe that I posted on Facebook, it's pinned to the top of the group. You'll see that it's not a complicated recipe. There's not a lot of unusual ingredients. Really, it's about using the right kind of potato. And also, I think the leeks do add a lot of flavor. You can use onion here if you don't have leeks or you can't find leeks. But I have not had a problem finding them any grocery store anywhere I've lived. So.
No, we have problems with people knowing what they are when you get to the register.
That's true. Twice I bought leeks at 2 different grocery stores. Neither of the people that were checking me out knew what it was. So there is a problem with that. So I put some olive oil in the pan. The first thing we're going to do to get our soup going is we're going to saute some bacon. If you're not wanting to make this, or if you want to make this a vegetarian soup, you don't have to add the bacon. But bacon is always better. This is just standard bacon. And all we're going to do is we're just going to brown it. This was actually kind of fatty bacon, so I actually took a lot of the fat off. And that's the other trick to this soup, is that part of what we're going to saute our vegetables in is going to be bacon fat, which is delicious. So you can't argue with that. And like I said, if you're really looking to make a very low fat alternative, you don't have to use bacon, or you can drain a lot of the grease off after we cook it, and you can always just use olive oil or vegetable oil. Another alternative, if you can't find bacon, you're not going to find pancetta, but you could use pancetta, which is like the Italian version of bacon, and that's delicious too. That can sometimes be a little leaner, so that's a possibility. I don't know about you guys, but I'm like obsessed with crispy bacon. It has to be like really crisp, like almost burnt crisp. Soggy bacon is gross. So when people say like there's no bad way to eat bacon, I'm like, actually there is a bad way to eat bacon. If it's soggy, that's disgusting. I hope you guys had a good Memorial Day weekend. We got to actually go up to my parents. My sister is in town unexpectedly, and it was really good to see her. Hi Mandy, hi Mom, hi Dad. If you're watching, it was really great. We had a picnic. We made potato salad. I made lemon bars. We tried an experiment. So for anybody who watched the lemon bar recipe, usually you have to be like really, I always talk about don't substitute things when you're baking because you don't know what's going to happen. We actually ran out of white sugar. Instead of 2 cups, I only had a cup and a half, and so we actually used a half a cup of brown turbinado, which is like that raw sugar. It actually gave it a really different flavor, and it was delicious. So, and those little crusty bits around the edges where it bakes on, those were like especially good. Like I had a corner piece, and it was, so just a thought. Apparently you can't experiment. And I know Angela told me she did make the lime version. She said she kept the sugar the same, but she said the lime flavor was not as strong. She would have added zest. So remember when we did the lemon bars, I said, I've tried adding zest. It doesn't add anything to the lemon bars. But for lime bars, we think that it would really help bump up that flavor to use the lime zest. So, just FYI. Angela's out there experimenting for us. So, I just use just a regular stew pot. I'm going to use the immersion blender later, so you really don't want to use that on a non-stick. So you can use a non-stick for this. This is like my favorite stew pot. This is from like my old set of cookware. I've gotten rid of almost every piece except this pot, which is really beautifully sized. It's an old Emerald cook set that I got when I was first, so it's like, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old, and it still works great. I ended up replacing the other cookware with stuff I didn't actually like that much. Then I got another set after that. So sometimes what you have is actually good, and don't upgrade because it's not an upgrade. We're still getting crispy here. Like I said, this is important to me that it gets crispy because we're going to take it after we make this beautiful, smooth, velvety, rich texture soup. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of the crispy bacon on top, and it really adds like a nice little crunch and a little surprise when you mix it into the soup. It's like delicious. I mean, it's bacon, so how bad could it be? The other thing this week, Hazardous Things comes out on Friday. I'm really excited. I've gotten some great feedback. You guys are loving Max and Felix, and that makes me really, 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 really happy. I'm still hard at work on Extraordinary Things. It's almost done. I think I have like 3 chapters left, but of course I write really long chapters. It's funny because this other author that I kind of switch trade chapters with, she like writes really short chapters compared to me. So she'll be like, I wrote a chapter today, and I'll be like, I wrote like a third of a chapter today. Okay, so we're getting really close here. I would recommend, when you take the bacon out, this is just a regular dinner plate, and I put some paper towel on to kind of soak up the extra grease. We're getting nice and crisp here. You can see that. Like I said, I like my bacon like crispy, really crispy. I actually bake my bacon in the oven, like when I'm making for breakfast or for BLTs or something. You just put a regular cookie sheet with sides, put a big piece of parchment paper on top so that it covers all of it and like overlaps over the sides. Lay your bacon out there at 415 for like 15 or 20 minutes. literally the parchment paper, the bacon grease does not soak through it at all. And your pan underneath is like clean. You just wait for the bacon grease to kind of solidify. You crumple up the parchment and throw it away. No mess. Okay, so we've got some nice crisp bacon here. And then the thing we're going to add afterwards, I'm actually going to turn this down a little. It's kind of got hot. I'm going to be adding some garlic, and I don't want it to burn. I mean, really, this is just a really nice, easy recipe. Like I said, other than the leeks, which you can substitute with onion, you probably have all these ingredients in your pantry. I mean, who doesn't always have bacon in their house? Okay, leeks. So if your bacon was super fatty and you have a ton of grease, I would take some out. I have the perfect amount here. I don't need to add any extra butter or anything. So I just put the leeks in. And because they're kind of like in those little nested, you just kind of want to break them up a little bit. Because you don't want to like end up having like a big raw piece of leek. And probably nobody cares, but leeks have kind of like a very mild onion flavor. If you're going to substitute onion in this soup, definitely use a sweet onion. Do not use like red onion, or white onion, which would probably have way too sharp of a flavor, or use way less. Because all the things we're doing in this soup is to bring out the flavor of the potato. That's why it's important what kind of potato you use. Is it like all... You're just waved at me. We're still working on the hand gestures, guys. It's not perfect, but we're getting there. Really, everything we're doing is emphasizing the flavor and the natural flavors of the potato. People say the potato doesn't taste like anything. I disagree with that. Potato has a beautiful flavor, especially a really nice potato like Yukon Gold. And so everything we're doing is just complementing and bringing out the natural flavor of that potato.
What's your view on turkey bacon?
I think the turkey bacon can be really good. I like it to be crispy. So if you can find your way to make it crispy, I mean, like, you can make this without bacon, but you could also make it with turkey bacon too. That would be delicious. I know a lot of people are watching their cholesterol. If you have a little bit of bacon like on the bottom of the pan, just make sure you scrape it up. It's delicious. You don't want to like waste it there. So I think that leek's looking pretty good. I'm going to actually grate in some garlic. This is not a time to go wild. Potato is a very subtle flavor. You do not want to like overpower. It's like using the wrong kind of onion. You don't want to overpower your potatoes. So you can chop this. You can use your garlic press. I like my little gadgety thing from Rachel Ray. Speaking of Rachel Ray, I have discovered on our TV that we can add an app called Food Network Go. And I can watch all 800 episodes of 30-minute meals. So there's going to be a lot of 30-minute meals inspired recipes coming up. Which is good because, like, and I was thinking about this. Like, just kind of random thoughts. Deep Rachel Ray thoughts. Like, she completely changed the way that we cook. Like, when she started cooking, like, I'm watching season 1, which she's young. She doesn't have stock in a box. Like, this kind of stock. It's like in a can, like a huge ginormous can. And I mean, she added like words to our lexicon that, and before she got going, like, I mean, quick, easy meals was like throwing a can of cream of chicken soup into a casserole with some other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, but she showed that it was easy and you could make easy, fast, delicious meals that were healthy without sacrificing flavor. So I just really love Rachel Ray. Sorry. Also, her gadgets are awesome. Okay, so we have the garlic in here. We have the leeks. They're nice and sauteed. The next thing we're going to add is the potatoes. So now, normally you would have peeled and diced your potatoes. Now, like I said, You can make like just small pieces like this because I'm going to end up pureeing it. You can also use a potato masher if you don't have an immersion blender, or you can put it in a blender. That's tricky though because it's so hot. But because I don't want to have to sit there and blabber on you for like the 12 or 15 minutes it would take for these potatoes to cook all the way through, they're already cooked, mostly cooked. So the first thing we're going to do is add some stock. You can use, if this is vegetarian, you're making a vegetarian one, use veggie stock. I'm using chicken stock because it's what I have. Don't use beef stock, that would be weird. This sits in the back of my fridge and you can see, like, you can hear the little frozen thing in my chicken stock. It's a very cold fridge, apparently. You do not want a lot of chicken stock. Just enough to cover your potatoes. Hopefully this is enough. I guess we'll find out. I had 2 apparently open in my refrigerator, which happens sometimes. So like I said, normally you would have just raw, peeled. Now if you like peels, leave the peel on, but I don't like peels and we're going to be blending it, so I took them off. But these are already mostly cooked. Oh, that's perfect. I don't know if in the recipe if I added the milk before. Does anyone have the recipe up? Yes, no? I think I added it now. You will all be really impressed. Instead of using heavy whipping cream today, I'm using half and half. You can also use milk. If you want to make this dairy-free, you could not necessarily use milk at all. It'd probably be really nice and creamy without it. But that's the perfect amount of liquid. You want it just covering the potatoes because we want to have a nice silky texture at the end, and then you need, because if you have too much liquid, it's going to be really thin. Potatoes are a natural starch though, and they help thicken things up. Like, you know, mashed potatoes get really nice and thick and sometimes they get gluey, but we don't want to do that. So we're just going to let this simmer away. Normally, repeat again, can you hand me that lid? We would cook our potatoes for 12 to 15 minutes until they were fork tender. But these have already been cooked for like 11 minutes. So while these are cooking, we're going to chop some green onions and get our toppings ready for the soup. So let's kind of clean a little of this up. That's the problem with Leeks, is that like you buy this huge thing and you only use like a little bit of it. Okay, so we have our bacon. This is my example potato. I'm going to chop some of these green onions. I like putting green onions on the top because, like I said, it's a very silky, smooth soup. And sometimes you like something that like gives a little bit of a crunch or a difference to the texture. So the bacon does that. I also feel like green onion is a really nice addition because it kind of echoes like the kind of mild onion flavor of the leek. But you wouldn't want to put like leeks on top, like raw leeks. So this is a really nice, and also it's kind of like, this is kind of like a fancy version of baked potato soup. Like if you had like company coming for dinner and you could serve this, and if you didn't want to serve baked potato soup, but I would totally serve baked potato soup to company. So, yeah. We are going to put a little cheese in there too. That is going to also be optional at the end. So, and you can vary the cheese depending on how much like a baked potato you want this to be. You could also potentially stir in a little sour cream at the end if you wanted that tang. So when I say this is a very variable dish, I mean it. I'm cutting these green onions in half because I don't know about you, but I like the whites and the green parts, but the whites, that big huge chunk of green onion is too much for me. So I cut it in half so that it kind of naturally breaks up a little bit. That's just me being quirky. Do we have anyone out there that's actually read, changing subjects again, as Corey would say, Steve's story? What is this? Why do we call it a Steve story?
Because Steve always started his stories in the middle.
Okay. Corey's been saying that to me for almost 10 years, and I have no idea why we call it changing the subject.
You just forgot.
Okay, well, I'm sure you told me at some point, but it's been a long time. So that's why we call it a Steve story. So, Steve's story, Is anyone watching that has read Hazardous Things yet? Besides probably Angela, who I don't know actually is if she's watching. But we're still waiting for that to boil. Everyone that says gas stoves are faster is lying to you. If there's anyone out there that's read it, no spoilers, but just tell me what you thought, or Corey can tell me, and I can tell all of you what you thought. That was like painful. I don't know what that I was even saying right there. Let's see what other things. Oh, I have other exciting news. I think I have mentioned this in the group, but Rivalry is going to be recorded by a new to me narrator. He just did a book for DJ Jameson called 5 Fake Dates, which has gotten a lot of really positive feedback. And I listened to it and it was adorable. So he's going to be narrating the Rivalry. He's going to be recording it in July. I just got the cover from Sam. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to bring that book to audio. I want to do more audiobooks for you guys, but it's a lot of work and expensive. And Wyatt is still recording Indulge Me. Like I said, audio is a lot of work. Anyone that tells you otherwise is lying. But I actually got this wonderful email this week from a reader who told me that he was so appreciative that I had so many books in audio because he had dyslexia, and it made it easier for him to read, and he had not read for many years because of it, and now he could read again, and he was very appreciative, and it was very sweet. Those are the kind of emails. I mean, I love hearing from you guys always, but like those emails always like make me tear up a little.
What was the narrator's name again? The
new one? The new one for Rivalry is going to be Darcy Stark. So Wyatt will still be recording Indulge Me, which will be the 4th and final Kitchen Gods book that he's going to be doing, and then his schedule was really packed. And as we've established, Rivalry is a very long book. So I think we're finally boiling. Maybe not quite. We're going to be here for a while. Is there any other rambling things? Oh, I thought of something else. If you haven't watched any of the author interviews in Annabeth's Angels, which is Annabeth Alpert's group, she is a sweetheart, and I did one for her this week, and we talked about all kinds of stuff for almost an hour. So she saves those recordings, and they're in her group. So I think she links to them in the top in one of the announcement posts. It's really great if you can tune in to see mine or any of the others. She's had some fantastic authors on there, not just me. I wouldn't call myself fantastic. But we talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about the Star Shadow books, obviously, because, you know, Hazardous Things is coming out on Friday. We talked about cooking. We talked about cooking with Beth. We talked about all kinds of stuff. So if you ever wanted to know more about me, if you haven't gotten enough in these episodes, you can check that out. Like I said, it's an Annabeth's Angels, which is her reader group, and she's just an absolute sweetheart, wonderful person. I hope she's watching. Hi, Annabeth. She did mention she watches these sometimes, so. Are we boiling yet? Oh, hey! We have liftoff. So, like I said, normally you cook for 12 to 15 minutes. Just test your potatoes with a fork. Pretend you're making mashed potatoes. You want them to be fully cooked. You do not want partially cooked potatoes. But I've already pre-cooked these, so I don't have to ramble any more than I have to normally. So I'm going to trek them in like 3 minutes. So if anyone has any questions for the next 3 minutes, if I can think of anything to say. Do you have anything to say, Corey? Everybody always loves it when you talk. I had someone specifically say that in the interview this week. Oh, I really love it when Corey chimes in. And I was
chiming in is different than talking. You don't want to hear me ramble. People do that all day.
That's true. Sometimes we have separate offices. When we first moved here, we didn't have separate offices. We had one office in the rental house, and people always ask me, "Oh, how did that go? Was that really hard?" And I'm like, "Well, it wasn't like great, but it wasn't terrible. I mean, I had my noise canceling headphones and
your loud keyboard.
I have this like mechanical keyboard that like lights up and has all these rainbow lights, and it's awesome. It feels very satisfying to write a sentence, but it's also very clicky and loud. And like when I would be like writing at the same time, and I type really fast, and I also have like a really strong delete backspace function. Like when I get really mad at a sentence and it's not working, I mean, I just, it's very loud. People were hearing it on Corey's phone calls for work. Like multiple times. My keyboard was becoming notorious. And also one of the times I opened a Diet Coke, it was like in the morning. Someone asked Corey if he was drinking a beer. So that's the funniest story about us sharing an office. But I wear noise canceling headphones, but I sometimes can still hear him. Our offices are now across the hall from each other in two of the bedrooms and the upstairs of the house. And I sometimes do hear him. I can always tell when like things are not going well. You have a certain voice. If things aren't going well for me, nobody knows. It's just me internally freaking out. Or me sending, or actually no, that's not true. It's usually me sending Angela a message. Things are not going well. Help me.
Earl might know.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time on my desk. He has his bed, and then he also has he likes to like parade back and forth in front of the keyboard when he wants me to pick him up and hold him. Which I have the most spoiled cat ever. He wants to be held a lot. It's amazing I get any work done. It's amazing you guys get books like every 3 months or every other month. Like it just normally, like, Earl would make that impossible. So, you can thank him if there's a delay. 21 seconds! We can check actually I'm going to check the potatoes now. It's really boiling. You probably want to leave the lid on for that. Handy dandy fork. Let me find a potato. I think this is a pretty big piece. I think they're done. Yeah, they're done. Okay. So, 2 ways you can do this. You can serve it just like this. There's no reason that you have to blend it. Excuse me. There's no reason you have to blend it or use a blender or use a potato masher, but you can serve it just the way it is. I like mine a little bit smoother. So these are not very expensive. I think this was like $40, and it's a KitchenAid. It's a really good, strong piece of equipment.
It was.
We're gonna like put together a whole reel of bloopers. I really actually do know how to use this, I promise. There it is. Okay.
Did it click?
It clicked. It doesn't really click as much anymore.
It's getting old like me.
Yeah, that's definitely the problem. It hasn't been abused. Okay, I'm actually going to turn this off because I don't want the cord going into the flame. So, when you're using an immersion blender, the key word is immerse. Do not put it out here and try to like go down while it's on because it will go everywhere. So you immerse it completely and then press the button. You just kind of go around. Like I said, I really like mine very smooth. So I'm going to pretty much blend it till it's smooth. You can use a potato masher. But this is a very handy tool, and there's other things you can use it for, though I mainly use mine for soup. And you can see I'm just kind of gathering up the potatoes and just pulverizing. You know what I realized? I forgot to salt and pepper this. Well, you should have salted and peppered and put the thyme in earlier before you cooked your potatoes. Don't do that. Don't forget. This is why I should have had my recipe out and I didn't. But follow the recipe. Don't follow me doing it. I've made this too many times and I'm distracted because you guys are here. See, that was bad. It did actually click, I swear. Am I going the wrong way? Technical difficulties. buying a new immersion blender.
No, I usually put it together for you.
That's not true.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Okay, it's working fine then.
No, until I lift it up again, and then it is going to fall apart. Oh, another reason you might want to watch the interview with Beth is I actually talked quite a bit about the food truck spinoff that's coming in this summer. Where's the potato masher? I promise you, I've used this tool many times and I've never had all these problems. It is a very excellent tool. There's nothing wrong with KitchenAid. I promise it's all me. It is a user error. Where's the potato masher? We still have a little bit of mashing to do. We're almost there. See, look, now you get to see both techniques. And some people, Corey, he's going to try to fix it. Some people don't like to get the entire soup completely pulverized or smooth. They like a little chunk. So this would be a good section or spot at which to stop if you were one of those people, because it has a nice creamy base now and it's thickened up a little bit. You want the other piece? Corey's gonna try to fix it, guys. He probably will. He's very handy. Unlike me. You know, I have all kinds of kitchen equipment. I use an Instant Pot. I have a slow cooker. I don't have problems normally. Was I putting it together wrong? Oh, I didn't twist it enough. The truth comes out. Thank you, Corey. That was an invaluable assist right there. We should really have bloopers. I like mine totally smooth, so I'm going to go the distance here, now that the thing is fixed. Okay, I think we're almost there. No, there's still a few little bits. Oh, yes, thank you. Salt and pepper. Important ingredients that we will be adding. I also really like a little dried thyme in mine, which I will be adding. It's better to add it when you're cooking the potatoes. I didn't cook my potatoes in a normal way, and that's probably why I forgot to add it. If you add the dried thyme before you cook the potatoes, dried herbs can kind of be a little woody sometimes. They can be a little tough. So it's nice to make sure that when you're using them, you're going to give it plenty of time to cook so it kind of softens up a little bit. Kind of like how I softened Corey up a little bit. He thought that was good. Okay, this is probably good. So we are not going to forget the salt and pepper. I've already forgotten it like twice, but we're not going to forget it again. These are potatoes. They need salt and pepper and seasonings. Keep in mind, especially if you use the bacon is naturally salty. So start small and work your way up. Taste it. I am still going to add thyme because we've actually already eaten dinner and this is going to be lunch for me for the next couple of days. So I will be reheating it so it will cook. And I think the thyme adds a really nice something.
So you have plenty of time to add it because you're not eating it.
That's right. I have plenty of time. Har har. I'm really surprised he didn't try to use the leak in a boat. There was like this line from a movie when someone says, "There's a leak in a boat," and this little like leak pops up with a little face on it.
There was actually one of the watchers, I guess I can't say listeners, talked about getting a leak, and they took pictures of the leak in a bunch of places One of which was a leak in the boat.
Very creative. See, you guys are so creative. I'm always astounded.
So you can see that when you rewatch it.
I can. Okay, so the last thing we're going to add, it's a good thing that I didn't entirely put that lid on. This is going to be an episode full of bloopers. Is I'm going to add a little Parmesan cheese. You could also add a sharp white cheddar. You could also use yellow cheddar, but I really like the classiness of having it all like this pale, very pale white color. You could absolutely forego the cheese as well as the cream, and then this would be a vegan soup if you didn't do the bacon. So as you can see, it's very creamy. This is like the perfect consistency here. So, and the other thing about Parmesan cheese is that is also salty. So I did not start with a lot of salt. It seemed like a lot, but you have to remember this is potatoes. Potatoes love salt. I'm really sorry you can't see all the faces he's making back there. It does need a little bit more salt. It just does.
As usual.
Well, I mean, you don't want to have, if you stick too much salt in the first time, you know what's going to happen? Then it's ruined. So you start small and work up. I should probably be tasting this with a spoon and not a fork, but here we are.
If it's thick enough, it doesn't matter.
It's not supposed to be that thick.
I'm just saying, it'll stick to the prongs.
I'm going to plate a little bit, just to kind of show you. This is the cutest little ladle. It actually sits here in the pot. Isn't that like freaking adorable?
It's Nessie.
It's Nessie. My mom got this for me for Christmas one year.
That's the small Nessie.
Yeah, big Nessie has holes, so it makes it a little harder. So then, so cute. We're going to take a little bit of this beautiful crispy bacon. We're going to put on top. And a few of the green onions. And we're going to go a little crazy. We'll dusting the Parmesan cheese on top. Voila! Potato leek soup. Beautiful, delicious, and in case you don't have any technical problems, very easy. I promise it's still easy. You need somebody that knows how to use this thing, and that would obviously not be me. So make sure you're safe with your kitchen equipment. Next week, I'm really excited. We're going to be doing a dessert. I'm trying to alternate savory dishes with baking. I'm making a variation on banana pudding, which is a North Carolina tradition. Pudding. With homemade butterscotch pudding. I can't wait to show you guys how easy this is. It's going to be like a butterscotch cheesecake banana pudding bar. It's going to be like to die for, and I'm like inventing this recipe, so it'll be even better. Anyway, tune in next week. I'm really excited about those. I thought I saw the cat run by, but I didn't. Squirrel. This has been a really classic episode of Bethany being really stupid. So I'm glad it's over. You're probably also glad it's over. I can't wait to see you next week. Everyone stay safe.